Hello and welcome back to the Book of Flinn. I'm Vinzer Flinn. We are back from our hiatus from Hal-Con, and with me, as always, on my Buffy and Clone Wars journey is my Captain Marvel, Raina Flinn.
Hello, everybody. Yes, we had a wonderful Hal-Con. How did you find Hal-Con?
Hal-Con was a very good experience for me this year. I had a really good time. I sold some helmets, and the reception to my artwork was really, really overwhelming this year, so it made me very happy. And I got to see tons of friends, because ever since the pandemic, it's like Hal-Con's the one thing you can count on seeing a lot of friends that you don't usually get to see through the year. So it was great. I had a very good experience.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. Victor had a blast on the weekend as well, unveiling one of his new cosplays. And something tells me that's going to be a repeat one until even when he gets too tall for it.
Yeah, it was good. I don't know much about Hazbin Hotel, but having seen the pictures of the Lucifer character stuff, there was a bunch of them there that weekend, and I know I'm biased, stepdad, but I thought his was one of the best.
There were a few people who came up to him and me when I was there, and they were like, "How did you get the makeup to not look cakey?" And I was like, So I just told them how I put it on and what I used. But he had a lot of fun that weekend, and I saw a lot of confidence in him. So it was a really nice weekend. But I got to unveil my Marvel of Arc, Captain Carol of Arc.
It killed. It looked great.
I'm excited. It's been long enough after con now that I'm starting to see some pictures come back of it. And because I never saw it all together, I never got to put it all together on with the cape and everything in the mirror. So the first time I got to see it was when my friend who was a photographer for the weekend, he sent me a picture like Friday night right after the first day I wore it. And he goes, I couldn't wait for this one. Because there was a lens flare in it. And it was like, thank you for the first picture of my cosplay, because I've actually have not seen it. So it was wonderful. And it actually spawned a lot of people's interest in creating their own medieval mashups. So I think we're going to have quite the crew next year if they'll follow through.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to do a Doom or an Iron Man or something in between, but I'm in for something.
Yes.
Yeah, lots of good pictures taken of Victor and the Mandalorians and the superheroes by local photographer Mike Montgomery, who's great. He's done some really awesome special effects on Victor's first real photo. He did a flamethrower effect on it. People thought it was real.
Enough that I had to put a disclaimer on the photo, not an actual flamethrower. So well done on that one.
And of course, our old buddy Conrad, the designer, who volunteers so much of his time, and he takes such incredible shots of all the cosplayers. So Check out Conrad the designer on social media, because he's fantastic.
He has a coffee page. Go support it. It's wonderful. He is as majestic as his hair is. So if you've ever seen him, you know exactly what we mean.
Truly majestic hair. Well, shall we get back to work here? We've been taking a little vacation after Hal-Con, but I'm ready to talk more Clone Wars and more Buffy.
I am too. We're sorry we take breaks, everybody, but we're like a nice little surprise where you're like, they're there. Here they are again. We pop up.
They're still doing this thing.
Like a pirate radio. We pop up when we're able.
Yep. We've been on the run for several months. That's what we'll tell people, as we weren't goofing off, as we were on the lam.
Season 2, Episode 11 of Star Wars Clone Wars, Lightsaber Lost. Easy isn't always simple. With these, I was immediately like, oh, Skywalker, who I'll refer to as Gloomwalker, is going to lose his saber. Not a euphemism, but he's going to lose it again. Crime is a-brewing in the underworld, and some mercenaries are working with the Separatists, so in come Gloomy and Ahsoka in the seedy underbelly of Coruscant.
The best part.
Gloomy and Ahsoka are heading in to find a weapons dealer named Car Alpha, I think. That's what I have.
Sounds made up.
As selling to the Separatists. And of course, all I heard was Carl.
You did that in a riff we did recently, too. You saw the word car and you went, Carl. Car. The next time we should.
And I'm genuinely surprised we got the name of somebody this early in the episode. Usually we're like 15 minutes in before we get the name of somebody we're hunting or somebody that's talking on the screen.
You need to watch these shows with the Star Wars encyclopedia in your lap. He's like, oh, I looked that guy up.
It's true.
We're never going to get his name in a dialogue.
It's true. Gloomy heads into the bar and he's like, wait out here, dear. And of course, she's waiting outside in the seedy underbelly in a tube top. You can't hear me sigh, but... Anyways, so Ahsoka's not impressed by being left outside and being told to wait like a good dog. And it seems that a few of them are more interested in her lightsaber than they are in her. And within seconds of Mr. Subtle heading into this bar, there's a huge bar fight that breaks out and a bunch of people run out fleeing. And
the Mandalorian in me appreciated Anakin in that moment. It's had to happen to me too.
I mean, that's fair, but I'm like, 5 seconds. He just walks in and just literally hit first, ask questions later.
For all we know, he went in there and there was a couple old Flinns in there and then they just joined in the fight.
It's true. Ahsoka gets knocked over in the chaos, and when she goes to get up, she reaches for her lightsaber, but dun dun dun, it's gone. She notices that a short alien has it in his hand, and honestly, I thought it was going to be Gloomy. I was like, Ahsoka is losing the lightsaber in this? She's just like, oh, my master's going to kill me. And this is where I started to get, like, raging. Because the hypocrisy. If he says one word about her losing her lightsaber when it's been a running joke since episode 2 of
He's
the
lost,
movies.
What, 4 of them?
Right? Like, they literally make the first time that he's on screen, they make a joke within 5 minutes that he's always losing his lightsaber. So, no. You have no worries, Ahsoka. He should have no grounds to get mad at you. She meets back up with Gloomy, and he doesn't even seem to notice that she's not even wearing it. And she's not a big person. Like, she's a small humanoid. So, it's relatively larger on her in comparison, so it would kind of stick out. All right, whatever, where were you? And then they just lead Carl back to the ship. At the Jedi Temple, Gloomy still hasn't noticed.
Or do you think he did and he's like, I'm not dealing with this shit, you can figure it out as a lesson?
Yeah, he seems like extra cranky right now. Does he seem extra sullen to you? It's just, I don't know, he just seems to have no personality, this guy. It's like the voice actor was sick or something, so they had to rewrite it.
They didn't show us that Anakin got kicked in the balls in the bar fight. He's been in a bad mood ever since.
Yeah, it was friendly fire. Gloomy's leading the prisoner down the hall at the Jedi Temple, I'm assuming. And Ahsoka's like, I'm gonna go to the library. And he's like, yeah, okay, whatever. But King of the Force isn't picking up on any of her vibes, because you know she's not putting out, like, epic panic energy right now. Is this the point where, did he just find out that she's preggo? No, this is way too early in.
Yeah, that was episode 3. Yeah, it's a while in the timeline.
All right.
I don't know. He's a moody fuck.
I'm on baby watch. You
what? I don't know. I've never looked it up, but I'm sure there's people out there who figured out when in the timeline conception happened.
I'm gonna see if I can figure it out myself, and then I'm gonna go research it at the end.
I like that even better.
This is my plan.
I've never checked it, so this will be fun.
The scene in the library, where AKA Reyna's rage room, because the librarian, whose name honestly escapes me.
Jocasta Nu.
Jocasta Nu. I continue to call her Lady Giles. We're just gonna go with it.
Yeah, that works.
She is helping Ahsoka look through mugshots. Like, how many mugshots do you think there are on Coruscant?
Yeah, they'd be there for years.
It's not even like, let's round it down with murder. It's like, no, let's start with petty theft. She's like, oh, Gloomy will your master will understand if you tell him. And she's just like, are you kidding? He's always telling me your lightsaber is your life. Don't lose it. Well, I'm about to lose it right now. Like, what?
The plot of this episode is I don't want to hear it from Anakin.
Your lightsaber is your life, so give it to somebody in an act of love when they think that you're not paying attention to them. Lady Giles suggests that Ahsoka talks to somebody called Terra Sanube, who's an elder Jedi, and literally, I think he's a turtle. Like, I think he is an evolved turtle species, because he moves at that speed this entire episode. They approach him in his sleeping chair, and he wakes up with the classic, oh, I was just resting my eyes.
for 8 hours.
That's where he lives. He just shuffles off to his side room. They turned a storage closet into the bedroom because he just never wants to leave.
Doesn't sound bad.
Right? Ahsoka gives him a brief description of the thief and mentions that his species probably comes from a World 3 in Super Mario Brothers 3, aka the Water World.
Fucking Water World. The one you wish you'd skipped.
And my new favorite Jedi replies, "You might say there is something fishy about him." And then laughs as hard as I did at his joke. You're not laughing. Why aren't you laughing? So for the rest of the episode, I call him Panube. And don't hang up this call. Please continue the podcast with me. Panube finds the guy in, I timed it, 20 seconds.
Damn, he's good.
Like, wow, okay, he's a turtle, but slow and steady wins this race. Ahsoka literally mouthed, "Oh my god," while pacing in the background while he was thinking out loud. Because I missed it. I had to go back. I was rewatching it just a couple bit through just to get some pronunciations again. And I just happened to notice her going like, "Oh my god," in the background while he's talking.
This is definitely the old Jedi who takes notes on everything that's going on in the neighborhood. 10 o'clock made phone call.
It's true. You know, he has in his logbook the time that they impersonated Lady Giles, and it's just the guy like he's dressed up as Lady Giles trying to talk through something. Remember in the last season, it was like Ahsoka was on library watch.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyways, back to this episode. Bonamu is the name of the thief, and Ahsoka's like, "All right, let's go, thanks, peace." And Panube's like, "Oh no, I'm coming along." And he starts like hobbling along. And she's like, "Great, Gramps."
Yeah, she calls him Gramps.
Is it me or is Ahsoka very much exuding gloomy energy in this episode?
Yep.
There's something weird going on in the Force. Maybe where he's so moody, she's picking up on it. I don't know, but it's so weird. Back in the underbelly, they go to a food stand and they ask this food truck guy, who I'll call Davy Jones, because I don't want to call him the food truck guy this entire time.
Oh, right. This guy's a core, and he's from the same world as the Mon Calamari people.
Yeah.
They war with each other. Yeah, the Mon Cals are like Weewiks.
But he actually looks like Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean.
They got the tentacle beards going.
And Ahsoka, being the suave undercover agent that she is trained to be, is like, "Hey, selling a lightsaber?"
Some Jedi are subtle, some aren't.
They're like sitting there with another customer, like less than a foot away, like not even safe social distancing, nothing. They go off to the side to discuss business, and Ahsoka's aggressively interrogating him. Panube's like, "Anyway, what's the price? Do you have it still?" And Ahsoka I thought that she would spook him by interrogating him about Bonamu, but I guess showing their hand that they're Jedi is what pushed Davy Jones over the edge.
Yeah.
Because he's like, "I don't want to get in the way of Jedi, never mind. Like, I want out of this. Here's your thing. Just leave me out of it."
You have to think that going back into the ages of the High Republic and Old Republic, that with the Jedi always being there, that guys like Panube and Sanube, they must have been like the Jedi version of Inquisitors, where they're like the cops or the Aurors from Harry Potter. These were the guys who went out and actively hunted guys down. I feel like that's what this guy used to do. So it's like you got your cops, you got your detectives, but Jesus Christ, when the Jedi show up there, so they know. They probably have that old underworld ingrained thing where if a Jedi shows up, it's like, that's a super cop. Like, oh, don't fuck around. Anyway.
I do enjoy this buddy cop stylized episode. However, who would be the ideal buddy cop duo that you'd want to see in like the Star Wars?
Oh, shit. That's a great question. The first thing that pops to my mind is the show I've always wanted, which is like Din Djarin and Boba Fett off doing adventure, something like that. That'd be good because they got the older, younger hunter dynamic. But that's a great question. I'd have to think a little bit more on that. But there's a lot of answers, I'm sure.
If you guys have answers, let us know. They tell them that that the guy is staying at Spider Arms Hostel. Ew, who would ever stay there? No thanks. Why just the arms? Where's the rest of them? Why is it just the arms?
Well, that's what they call hotels, is like the arms.
Ew.
It's a play on words. It's like a pun. You should love that.
No, I don't love that one because it gives me the visual that you're just like, wake up to spider arms in your bed. Blech.
Spider Legs is the strip joint down the way.
That's where the legs are. Panube. Obi-Wan's the clerk right at the front desk. He's like, we know where we're going. And the guy's like, yeah, you know where you're going.
They must put guys like Panube and Sanube, got me doing it, and Kenobi in charge. The guys that are good at mind tricks, they must be the first guys they pick to be like, the crime hunter guys.
Yeah. And Panube starts lecturing. I guess he more starts instructing Ahsoka that if she just would calm her shiz for 1 second, she'd actually be able to sense Bonamu's anxiety. And she's like, really? I'll be able to do that? And he's like, yeah, you'll be able to tell that he's right here. So she busts the door down and sees the Italian Gungan race. What?
Oh, I love this guy.
It's
the only note I have in caps for this episode is that he reminds me of that footballer. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. With Star Wars, so you gotta, instead it's sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe poodoo.
Bonamu swears that he's like, I don't have it. And Ahsoka almost uses the dark side.
Yeah, man, she's running the gray edge here in this episode.
Yeah, she decides to go with the gray side of the Force and throws him against the wall. And he's like, all right, it's Knack Movers, which is the sexiest name I have ever heard. Jesus Christ. Knack.
Sounds like an alien shaking disease. I've got the knock movers, I can't come.
It's like what a cat sound will make. Ugh. Panube's wheels start to turn after Bonamu's like, Knack. And Ahsoka's like, okay, you can stop talking now because Waterworld Boy's going like a mile a minute. And he goes, okay, I shut up. We head on over to Coruscant's Upper East Side, which just gets me in the realm of, hey, Upper East Siders, Gossip Girl here. I hear A sent out an SOS for her saber and will do anything to ensure she gets it back.
I've barely seen that show, and that's fucking uncanny.
I love that show. I rage quit the reboot because the power dynamic, I hated it, but I really liked the original because I used to read the books when I was younger. So I know that voice, Kristen Bell, very well. Panube is still encouraging patience, and she's practically jogging. And Panube is really reminding me of Dumbledore, like the Richard Harris, the book version. The did you know you put it in the goblet of fire? Not did you put your name into the goblet of fire?
I call it, one guy is goblet of fire, and the other guy is, alas, earwax.
That is such the perfect quotes for each of the Dumbledores. Because he gives no shits about anything. Panube's giving good boomer energy and starts telling Ahsoka about her feelings. He's like, you're probably feeling guilty about all the people who will die by your blade in the hands of a killer. Well, good luck puzzling that out.
She's like, I am now.
Yeah, she's like, thanks. Then they open up the room and immediately find a dead Knack. And his girlfriend is hiding in the corner. I initially felt pity for this girl, but then she opened her mouth. And that's where I lost her.
Jeez, I'm glad you said that and I didn't. I'd be dragged through the streets, and rightfully so.
Because she's like, the men, I was hiding from the men who killed Knack. And then she's like, okay. And then she's like, but I came home and found him like this. And I go, what? Yeah, but how did you see that it was men here? If you found him like this, sweetie, it just didn't make sense. And I initially deleted this note. I was like, okay, I'm going to delete this because this is Courtney. You're just going a little, Raina, you're just going a little psycho right now. But then I went, just in case. Glad I left it. Penube is like, oh, go search the place. There's something else going on here. I think he already picked up on her inconsistency, but he wanted to lull her into a sense of false.
Oh yeah.
Ahsoka goes into the bedroom and she's really off her game because she immediately gets I thought it was a droid, but I guess it's a Torellian Django jumper.
Yeah, this was a weird character. I thought it was a droid or something at first too, but yeah, it's just sort of a yeah. She's wearing like a mask. I thought it was like a droid face or something. It was really weird.
Yeah, I thought it was a droid face too, and she had like long, thin limbs, and we had just seen those creepy droids that were like super acrobatic. So I thought she was just one of those, but she looks like Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas. So until we know her name, I go with Sally. She gets the jump on Ahsoka and punches her in the face.
That's the second time today, like, Ahsoka's been caught unawares. Like, for a Jedi, I'm just like, what the hell's going on? This shouldn't be a thing.
She's so off her game. She's so stressed out. And I don't know, but everybody kind of seems like they're not being written by the regular writers, if you know what I mean. Like,
I totally get that, but I think the writing is actually kind of good in a way here because it's showing Ahsoka can't see what's going on in front of her because she's blinded by anger. She's literally, that's why she's using all these aggressive actions, because the dark side's creeping in a bit because she's so personally pissed off.
yeah, she's got too much. Somebody needs to take her away from Gloomy ASAP because that influence is not going very well.
Oh God, hold that thought, River Song. We'll get to all that.
Lord. While Ahsoka pursues Sally, Penube sits with the girlfriend, and then he's like, there, my dear, and plants a tracker on her.
Yeah, it gives him the old kick me sign maneuver.
Yeah. He's like, listen to everyone, trust no one. Got it. And he goes on to theorize what could have happened, but he's noticing that Ione, I don't know, is acting super nervous rather than grieving. They're flipping back and forth between Ahsoka being hot in pursuit and Detective Penube's interrogations. He's talking to Ione, and she's insisting that it was a group of men and didn't get a good look, but he starts picking up on all the same stuff that I said earlier about, I thought you came home and found him like this. How do you know? And he also notices that she's been more nervous since the intruder left. So while he's starting to interrogate her a little bit more and start questioning her, she basically calls for her ride. And the authority shows up. She jumps out the window, and Penube's like, well, gosh. Ione calls Sally, who turns out to be Cassie. We learn her name is Cassie, and lets her know that her cover's blown. And Cassie is climbing a pipe that Ahsoka force knocks over, but Cassie drops onto the car anyways. Thanks for the help. Back on the Upper East Side, A's mentally beating herself up on a rooftop, and Penube pulls up in a speeder that he asked for politely. Betcha there was a hand wave involved.
Yeah, I'm sure he was polite though.
Yeah. You want to give me your vehicle? Yes, I do. He's Sunday driving down the middle of the cirque, and Ahsoka is so bothered. And Penube's like, don't worry, I dropped a tracker on her. Way to bury the lead, dude. Get to the train station, and Cassie and Ione are about to board a train, and Cassie's like, you got a tracker on you, just as the Jedi catch up. And Ahsoka goes on to play with the dark side a little bit while she's given this chase scene here. Another kid gets traumatized when Cassie jumps through another window and takes a family hostage inside one of the train cars. And Ahsoka's like, I trade with you, like, take me, save them, that kind of thing. And Cassie's like, are you kidding? I'm not gonna take you with me. You know how to use this thing. I don't. Like, 5 seconds with you and I've got my lightsaber. You've got your lightsaber back. Like, no.
Jedi hostage is more trouble than it's worth.
Yeah. And she goes to leave the train, and in comes Penube with a light cane, disarming Cassie in 4 seconds, and then gives her a cane to the face.
I like this guy.
And I have a quote, value of moving slowly means one can always clearly see the way ahead. which I like that. I don't slow down enough. I'm usually running around like my head's cut off, so it's good words to live by. Back at the temple, Penube encourages Ahsoka to pass on what she's learned, and I'm like, are we supposed to be talking about the young ones in the room? I think he means gloomy.
Yeah, it's like that didn't really take with us the first time. You think you could work on him? Our lightsaber budget's through the roof because of this guy.
Kenobi's no better, but there's hope for you. Can you just teach this up, please?
At least Kenobi's taking down heavy hitters with his sabers like Grievous and Dooku. Like Anakin's just losing them.
Yeah, it's true. He's just giving them
Oh,
away.
went down that hole. Shit.
And judging by Ahsoka's smirk, I think she actually took it to mean that as well. I feel like I saw a lot of Gloomy in this episode, when in actuality he really wasn't on screen all that long, but she showed a lot of glimmers of Gloomwalker, but not really of Gloomwalker, Vader. She showed a lot of hints of what Gloomwalker will become. So please take her away. Get the influence gone now, please. Please give her to somebody who won't leave her with a lifetime of trauma, because she'll be fine if she gets away from him, right? I say this knowing that I'm missing a lot of years of Ahsoka's timeline. Note to self, if Vinzer makes a face, you're unfortunately in the right direction. And you were most definitely making a face.
I mean, I know the big parts of the story, but like I haven't watched these episodes either since they came out, and some of these are over a decade old now, so I'm rediscovering this journey too. But yeah, you river songing the shit out of it, having seen the live action Ahsoka like at the end of season 1 or 2. Yeah, at the end of season 1, which actually lined up perfectly for some of the flashbacks.
That was weird.
So yeah, we got a journey.
Yeah, I've seen a season and a half of Clone Wars, and then her live action appearance, and in both Book of Boba Fett and her own show. So this is gonna be really fun, everyone.
Maybe, I wonder if Sanube like looked at Ahsoka thinking like I could do something with this kid. Like she could be a good. I don't want to use the word inquisitor. I guess investigator would be the better word.
She's worked with Lady Giles before, so I can't help but think that. Well, he's definitely been in the library if that's where he seems to sleep. So maybe like he's noticed her when she's been on library duty there, and Lady Giles and him definitely know each other. So I feel like they would have talked, and maybe they've talked about Ahsoka. I just think that I really like this dynamic. This isn't the buddy cop duo I think I'd sign up for, but this would be the one that I would be like, all right, I'll watch it, and then I'd fall in love with it because their dynamic is so cute. As long as she stops channeling Gloomy, because she needs to be herself. That's why she doesn't have a nickname, because she's just as good as she is by herself.
So what's your final verdict on this episode? I liked it.
I did. I really liked it. I liked that I had the plot twist of it wasn't Gloomy losing his lightsaber.
Felt a little like a Star Wars crime procedural show, which I would 100% watch if they did it.
Oh yeah, 100%. This definitely has that buddy cop vibe that we were talking about.
So my only question from this episode is back at the cafe, where there was an Ithorian eating soup. How a Hammerhead has their mouths on either side of their neck. They got 2 mouths. So how the fuck was that Hammerhead eating that soup?
In one mouth and out the other?
All right, now that we're done both bowls of our soup, it's time for Buffy Season 2, Episode 11, Ted.
How'd you feel about this episode?
Buckle up, mate. All right, let's get to it. All right, well, the name Ted didn't give me much to go on for prediction, but I just said that Ted would probably be a bad guy and seem like a nice guy. So, I was,
Yeah. You're way closer than any of my predictions have been for Star Wars.
Now, apparently, this is the first episode I've watched in a while because I was watching it from a different source where the cadence or something was sped up. I watched it at a proper speed.
It's like the vocal was like up a pitch, yeah.
Yeah, Giles' voice in the intro did seem a touch more sedate this time, so maybe there was something to that. But anyway, I'm watching from a different source now, which is hopefully more accurate.
You're just tuning in when everybody's kicked their caffeine addiction.
It had a bunch of Dutch subtitles too, so I don't know. Maybe they did something to the audio too. But anyway, this one was working pretty good. Well, we kick off where the three amigos are walking at night, of course, and they're walking down the street and they're talking about Captain and Tennille, which I only know from Most Extreme Elimination Challenge. That Captain Tennille. The other one I'm as clueless as Buffy. And it sounds like things are sounding pretty calm. Spike and Drusilla are MIA, so all the vampires are sort of scattered and leaderless right now, so things are a little quiet. And Angel's sources say the bounty hunter killers are no longer a problem, so they don't have to watch their back for those guys. Now, Buffy goes into her house first because she senses something's wrong. I can't remember if the door was open or something. But anyway, she proceeds in very cautiously. And I thought she was going to call out for her mom. Like, Mom, are you here? And I'm like, of course she isn't. She's out, like, selling CDs on a New York street or something. But nope. Mom's not only home, she's making out with fucking Jack Tripper in the kitchen. This is the last thing in the world I expected was to see John Ritter to show up. So here's Ted.
Well, we found out where Joyce has been these last many evenings.
Down in his apartment with his roommates in fucking Santa Monica.
With Joyce giving us a classic, "You're home early."
But to which Buffy should have replied, "You're home?"
You're home at all.
But it's sort of nice to know where her mom actually has been this whole time, doing late nights at the gallery and stuff like that. So Ted seems like this really nice guy, and he's winning over Willow with tech talk and Xander with his cooking. He sounds nice. Too nice.
How triggered were you by all the tech talk?
Oh boy. I love it when there's a point later in the episode where they show a bunch of old PCs and it's such a trip for me. Just those big flat office ones. I remember installing those and PTSD. I did Y2K updates for fuck's sakes. I did overtime installing Y2K updates on government computers, and I got a lot of days off because of it. But
I was a 13-year-old that drank my first cooler
moving on
Y2K.
Yeah.
This is why we don't talk about where we were in the 90s, folks.
90s.
Gets weird. So my theory is that Buffy initially doesn't trust him in this scene because Ted's about 1 inch away from sporting a mullet.
Oh, I have a note on the mullet. Believe you me. So Buffy's very defensive and she's buttoned up about mom. At first, it doesn't seem like it's personal against Ted. It's just anybody dating her mom, because at one point in this episode, she mentions how she'd rather her dad be there, kind of thing. So any new boyfriend's got an uphill battle with Buffy. So the scene ends and it jumps directly to where Buffy's kicking the shit out of some vampire at the park, which apparently they're going to because it's easy hunting with no leaders. But the jarring jump from one scene to the next, like where she's all like pissed off and then kicking the fuck out of this guy, and she's definitely drawing the fight out, so much so that Giles, who is sitting on the sideline with a gym bag of stuff, and he's like, Jesus, he's beaten, stake him already. And then he sits down on the bench.
It's staking time, really? Don't you think?
He's like, gets weary and has his feet. Anyway, she finally stakes him.
And then any others? Well, for their sakes, I certainly hope not.
Giles feels bad for the vampires.
He's so on fire in this episode.
Oh, he really is, for so many reasons. Buffy says, vampires are creeps. Giles, yes, that's why you slay them. Another great quote.
I have that quote as well.
Quality quote.
Yep.
She starts to rant about vampires, but she's clearly bitching about likable Ted. So next day at school, Xander and Willow, they're pretty won over by Ted. Buffy's still being pretty defensive. Willow makes an awkward little joke and then gets more awkward, says, I make my own fun.
But Buffy, you can tell in this scene that she doesn't even know why she doesn't like him. She's just like, I don't know. Like, I don't know why I don't like him. And I'm like, feel that. Hold on to that feeling.
And like I said, at this point, it still could have been any guy. But yeah, I think her Slayer senses are going off a bit and she's not really aware of it. Xander acts a little bit like a tool, but to his credit, this is one of the few times he acts like a tool in the episode. So we get to a few good Xander points in this episode. And, there's Ted. He's just here at school. He's upgrading the school supplies and he sidles over.
Freud would have done the same thing, except he might not have done that little dance. This flashed me back to, in Clone High, someone must have been a Buffy fan. or else it was a really weird coincidence because in one of the scenes, Freud is laughing at Joan of Arc after showing the artistic film at school, and he's like, "Oh ha ha ha, Joan of Arc loves Abe," like and he's doing a dance.
That has to
and
be
I'm
a
just
connection.
I'm just like, they must have seen that episode and we're like, we got to throw that in. He totally would have done a dance.
I'd buy that. The timing's right. So Ted proposes mini golf and cookies as Buffy tries to put the kibosh on it, but Xander's like, fuck that, we're going.
Okay. I have a note here to see if you remember how they said they didn't have a miniature golf course in season 2, episode 1, when she was bad.
Oh, it must have just put it
You
in.
made a specific point that you're like, nope, they don't have a mini golf course. And I'm like, And while I understand Xander's lack of loyalty, it's still appalling in this episode all the same. We come to understand why, but still, I didn't like it.
Giles goes over to visit Jenny Calendar and still getting a bit of a chilly reception. She still seems to be processing through all the stuff she's been through. I have a note here that as Giles is speaking, there's the border on the background of the bulletin board. We've all had this in school. It's that wavy corrugated cardboard fucking background. That shit takes me back all the way back to the 80s. But yeah, that's just a school thing we've all had, is that fucking bordering. And Jenny seems to be recovering, but she still seems to want Giles to give her some space.
Yeah, you make me feel bad that I don't feel better. And this, coupled with their last on-screen interaction where she made it clear she needed space, it makes it sound like there's been multiple other run-ins, which means like Giles is kind of like always creeping in the background and he's always popping in or finding excuses and stuff. So I'm with Jenny on this one. Like, if somebody asks you for space,
100%.
The worst thing you could do is make yourself like over the top accessible and just everywhere all the time. Yeah. That's just a really good way to push them away.
And we pop over to Angels. This is the only time he appears in the episode, and she's bandaging his hand. I don't remember if that's from that. Well, that must have been from when he got stabbed. I was like, was he out bare knuckle boxing or something? But then I remember, all right, he had a bit of a hand wound to deal with from last time.
They didn't talk about it, but it's Fight Club.
There you go. So she's bandaging his hand and she's going off about Ted, and the look on Angel's face, he's just like, oh my god, shut up.
I think I'd rather be stabbed in the hand.
He's like, can I go back to being stabbed, please? And Buffy, this is where Buffy mentions her dad, but she also finally relents. She's like, all right, I'll give him a chance, and then makes out with Angel. So we do a mini golf visit here as promised, and it's in the daytime again. I'm always a little surprised. We're seeing more of it lately, but I'm always a little surprised when we're filming in actual outside broad daylight and, not some soundstage at night or whatever. So, it's just a nice little contrast.
Yeah.
What the fuck is with Buffy's leopard print tank top? You're laughing. You're probably expecting me to, like...
Yeah, I had it that she's stopping in to play around a golf before she hits the bronze. It's the only thing I can think of. They're like, we're going to do this. We're going to have a little dinner, except I'm not going to eat because I don't want to touch anything you cook. And then we're going to head to the bronze.
She's heading down to the Sunnydale's red light district to kill some vampires. And this is where I have a note. John Ritter's mullet is getting to me.
His little speech here sounds like he wandered in from one of the after-school specials that you and Maggie would definitely riff.
I thought you were going to say watch. I was like, we didn't watch that shit in the 80s, I promise. We were out lighting fires and getting on roofs.
No, you're riffing it now.
Ted talks about rules and... Ted talks, Jesus Christ. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Your grades suck and clean your room.
Oh, no.
Ted talks about rules and such, and he sounds like a stickler, and the weird feeling is just getting worse. Buffy tries to cheat at mini golf, and Ted catches her, and he uses this line several times. I beg to differ in the episode. He catches her cheating.
Little lady.
And then he starts to get like pissed off, and he's beating his leg with his putting club, which I'm like, this is the red flag of something.
This moment is chilling.
Yeah, and there's more. We'll get to. Ted gets all weird and he threatens to slap Buffy's smart mouth. I'm like, we're escalating quickly here. And he doesn't put up with a malarkey. And I'm like, you watch your fucking mouth. Buffy and Mom discuss Ted at home. She says she loves him and she might even mean it. It seems like we're moving quick.
This whole scene just breaks my heart.
Really? Yeah. Buffy tells Mom about him threatening her, and Ted told Mom a different version of things. He didn't dodge the subject, though. He just fucking put his gaslighter, spin on it, and I fucking hate gaslighters, man. So now I called him in my notes, Gaslighter Ted the Mullet Fuckhead.
Do you have a nickname?
I don't know if I can use that as the episode title, but it's a strong contender. At school, Buffy confers with the gang. She wants them to dig into Ted's life. Xander says, "Can you say overreaction?" And Buffy says, "Can you say sucking chest wound?" Which is a term I've never heard anywhere outside of a G.I. Joe comic. Seriously. They said it all the time in G.I. Joe. Larry Hama wrote that shit all the time. But yeah, don't hear that very often. Sucking chest wound.
Which makes sense as to why she said that to him, because that is a reference that he too would get as well. So
Cordelia wanders by, looking good. Xander compliments her outfit, and she's like, "Fuck off!" But he wasn't making a joke. He was actually trying to be nice. He wasn't making sexist jokes or anything. But yeah, she fucking nails him. So he chases after her, and this is a funny scene where Cordelia's worried his friends are gonna know, and her friend, and that we kissed, and then the ugh that comes out of her is so such a good delivery.
Buffy being not believed in this scene. Like, they're all like, "Oh, Buffy, you're just being weird. Like, why do you want us to look into his life?" This is why I give Gloomy room when he's worried and everybody else is shutting him down in Star Wars. It's because of things like this, because this happens repeatedly to Buffy where everybody's like, "No." And she's like, "I'm the Slayer. I have senses. Listen." And they're like, "No." And then she goes, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, maybe we should deal with that."
In some other episode, everyone would be telling her the danger and she'd be ignoring it. Like, you never get it, everyone on the same page.
Yep.
Anyway, Xander swears no one's going to know about them, and do you want to go make out in the utility closet? And she's like, "Okay." I was like, okay, yeah, makes sense. People in my high school use the sick room.
Did they just not lock utility closets in the 90s?
I don't know. We got into everything anyway. So Willow agrees to look into Ted, and she's going to start with where he works. And I guess she found that information quick, because in the 2 seconds of next scene, Buffy is at his work. She's just there. I guess she just walked in. And it's a fucking phone queue farm, which is, one of the layers of hell.
And his last name, I think we end up seeing it later, but all we see at this point is Ted B. So I'm like, there's no way that's not a coincidence. I don't know if I ever actually noticed that before, because I noticed it in this episode, and I'm like,
I did too.
What?
Totally did too.
Yeah.
I think it's Buchanan, but yeah, I had the same thought. And from the look of the sales board, he's the guy to beat around the office. And Belinda chats with one of his coworkers. I like how she made that up in the spot. He said he can't believe how Ted's girlfriend has cluttered his desk, which is empty except for one picture of Joyce in a frame. Apparently he has a wedding plan for in 2 months. Okay.
I'm sorry. Record scratch. What?
Buffy checks the photo when Ted steps out, and it's one of her and her mom. I think it was the one in the fridge, but she's folded out of the shot. So,
It is, because I actually went back and looked at the conversation when she was trying to tell Joyce about the threatening to slap, and it was gone from the fridge, but it was clearly there at the beginning of the episode. Yeah. So it is the exact same one that he took, folded Buffy out of the frame, and then put her in.
Yep.
I feel like I would like that coworker, though, if I worked with him.
Oh, was his name Neil or something? Yeah, he was all right.
Yeah, I think I like that guy.
Yeah. So at home at a family dinner with fucking prayer and everything. Oh, yeah.
That Ted's condescension reaches a whole new level.
Yeah, so they're at home with a family dinner with the prayer and everything, and the prayer is clearly like aimed at the soon-to-be stepdaughter. It's like totally aimed at her, and he's so sinister now, and I totally hate him, which is not something I ever thought I'd say about John Ritter. Everyone loves John Ritter.
Three's a crowd.
What's funny is that I think I put it somewhere later on, but John Ritter being a bad guy in this was like when Robin Williams played that serial killer. Same thing. They're great at it.
1 hour
but it's
photo.
Like, I love you. Why are you evil in this?
Stop it. You're hurting me.
What are you doing? Buffy asks point blank if they're engaged, and Joyce is like, of course not. But Ted does the thing he does where he doesn't avoid the issue, but he just sort of slimes his way through it. And it's the more gaslighting. And yeah, I can see the face you're making. And I was like, making the same one, like, you motherfucker. So Buffy gets sent to her room, but of course she sneaks out to a playground looking for vampires to stake and can't find any.
With the most melodramatic teenage answer, he's like, "How would you feel about that?" She's like, "I'd feel like killing myself." And I'm like, "Whoa, Buffy,
Yeah, that was
whoa,
heavy.
whoa." That was okay. Like, why don't you just stomp off to your room and slam your door while you're at it? Like, teenage melodrama.
No vampires to kill, so Buffy sneaks back in, and fucking Ted is waiting in her room like a creeper. And he went through her stuff, like found Slayer stuff and the crosses and all that shit in her diary, and he also knows about her snooping at his work. And Ted thinks she's delusional about this vampire stuff and threatens to show her mom. And this is where it gets fucking wild. Buffy tries to stop him and he slaps her. Like, they fucking get into a physical fight. Like, this is like a domestic abuse type and it was hard to fucking watch. It really was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Putting all that crazy shit aside for a sec, Ted seems like a match for her strength-wise, but when Joyce shows up, you know, he just lets it look like he's getting beat the fuck up by Buffy. Or maybe he wasn't. Maybe she did gain the upper hand, but it looked like he sort of threw that fight to look like the victim to me.
She definitely did get the upper hand on that. There was no chance for him to react. And I feel like when Buffy initially actually kicked Ted out of her room, that should have been the end of it. Like, she should have slammed the door, grabbed what was visible, and just book it. Because at this point, he had already dropped the diary on the floor, so that would have been all the proof. And what happens after this is definitely driven by teenage emotions. And I want you to make a note that he threatens her with a mental institution in this scene.
Right. Yeah, he does.
Because it's mind-boggling, because that is what happened to so many women, say back in the 40s or 50s, if they didn't listen to their husbands.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that he's also taking that stance on that here in the 90s.
They do that in, I think, the first season of Mad Men, which is set in the late 50s, early 60s, where Don Draper's wife goes to the doctor and then, like a psychiatrist, and then he's the one on the phone talking to the psychiatrist about it. And so that's, you know, it's fucked. It was way out of date then. It's fucked. And, you know, I'm sure shit like that's probably still going on. Anyway, yeah, it was all very hard to watch. And with John Ritter in the fucking mix, I'm like, my brain didn't know how to process some of this shit. So anyway, Ted goes down the stairs. Buffy kicks the shit out of him. And then, like, a lot of stuff surprises me in this episode. Then I'm like, he just fucking dies. I'm like, what? Buffy just fucking kills this dude? Like,
yeah.
I'm like, okay, what's the catch here? Next thing is him going into a body bag and getting carted out. And I'm like, this Buffy's getting really dark here, like real world dark. Like, what the fuck is happening?
Let's remind everybody for a moment that I watched this when I was 10 years old.
So, yeah, heavy.
What's wrong with me? I don't know.
So it seemed like Joyce was going to cover for Buffy with the detective saying he fell, but Buffy just says she hit him. Like, they feel like they could have kind of got away with it there, but she confessed.
I was surprised at first that Joyce tried to cover, but then I thought about it more and I'm like, okay, you know what? It makes sense. She doesn't have all the context. Like, why was her new boyfriend even in her daughter's room to begin with?
Seriously.
And Joyce is like in shock right now. She's probably a little bit high. Yeah, we'll come back to that in a couple of scenes, but the joke stands there. Once we get to the police station, I get triggered by the sounds of the station. All the phones ringing in the station.
Yeah, so Buffy's in the interrogation room trying to tell her side of it, and she shows the detective where she got hit, and he's like, wow, I don't see any big bruises. Like, this fucking guy, I wanted to shake him.
Why is the mom not in the room? She's
That's
minor.
true.
She's 16.
100%. Getting grilled by this fucking asshole. So no charges for the moment anyway, so they send them home.
Because it doesn't look like he hit you very hard.
I know, like, I mean, putting aside that she probably heals fast, but it's just like, you know, victim blaming, not believing that shit. It's just, this is another one of the difficult issues in this episode.
Yeah.
And a later note, it looks like Joyce drives a Jeep Grand Cherokee, you know, just like my dad's solid gold one. So at school the next day, Buffy walks in and everyone's staring at her. And I'm like, oh, sure, you kill 100 vampires, no one says shit, but you kill one John Ritter and you're a pariah.
Everyone loses their minds. And nothing says 90s quite like denim overalls.
Xander asks, and this was interesting, that he says, what was he? As in what type of creature? He just assumed. And that's where the big twist of this is no, he was just some guy that I fucking punched out and killed. So Buffy's consumed by guilt. This was just a regular person. Then I wrote, or was he?
Dun, dun, dun.
So the detective's at school asking about Buffy's behavior, and Giles is trying to kind of protect her from that. But I'm like, God knows what Snyder's telling her. Jesus Christ.
Snyder's hauled out her ripped up transcript, that one that Flutie taped back together.
Well, we didn't see Snyder at all in this episode, so he must have been at a DS9 convention.
Boo.
In the library, the gang is talking while Giles is casually putting a crossbow and axes in a gym bag. And if you weren't really paying attention, you might have missed it, but he's just very kind of quietly doing that. His plan is to cover for Buffy on the street tonight while the gang keeps digging on. It's funny that Giles decided to go out on the street to cover for her, saying how the vampires were, I guess, because they were scattered and leaderless, now is a good time to pick a few off. But it just seems like if it was quiet, then, why is Giles going out putting himself at risk? But whatever. Meanwhile, the gang's going to keep digging on Ted, but he still seems squeaky clean. At Buffy's house, I wrote down, imagine being in this house right now. This would be like if Victor disintegrated me or something.
This scene is really heavy, and I don't think Joyce was in the right here.
Yeah, she just sends her to her room. I bet she wishes she was out on the road now selling shower curtain rings or whatever. At the school lab, Willow is analyzing Ted's cookies. Okay.
As a scientist, I have questions, but we will just let them slide. Like how, and also how, and what?
I mean, she got the idea from Xander eating a cookie in a previous scene, but it does seem like a strange leap. But I know they were just casting around for connections to him, but.
No. I'm even more simplistic. How did she do a full,
well, there's that.
Yeah, how did she do the whole chemical analysis in a high school chemistry lab? Did they have a spectrometer there?
Looking under a shitty microscope from high school.
Did they have, a full chemical... whatever.
Maybe Willow just knows what the effects of ecstasy are. She's like, yep, this has got ecstasy in it. That's what we called it in the 90s, kids.
She's been microdosing Xander for years as an experiment.
That's why he's becoming less of a dick. She's fucking drugging him.
Ever since this, if he gets nicer after that, you know that she kept some of the drug, and she's just like, this is really for the best. Yep.
So Cordelia shows up with a fucking MI6 report of it. She's got a big folder full of info. I'm like, where the fuck did she get that?
I love her.
Whose connections does she have? Holy shit.
She probably flirted with a cop. Let's be honest. She would be smart and use her feminine wiles. She totally would.
Use her charisma, no pun intended. At the park, Giles is nervously on patrol and he's brandishing a cross about. Now, imagine seeing this guy in your kid's park at night. People would be on 911. There's a man in a tweed three-piece suit fucking waving a sharp stick around. So Jenny Calendar sees his car and she shows up to chat, kind of clear the air. And once again, she is literally in harm's way because the vampire jumps out of the bush at that moment. So I got to jump around a little bit here, but
yep.
Buffy's in her room. Remember what this was like in your room with no internet? It was still a happier time, but it seems so weird now. And her window is nailed shut. And what the fuck? Here's Ted in her room again. I'm like, what is going on? I still don't know what this guy's deal is at this point.
So when did he nail her room shut? Was it before she got home? Was it when Joyce was in the house? Is Joyce so high on edibles she didn't notice?
Maybe.
The sound of hammering? When was
Maybe
this?
He used the nail gun. He's like, "Ugh!" No, he couldn't have done. He couldn't have done that. He's supposed to be dead somewhere.
Yeah. Ted's dead cough. Ted's dead cough.
Any other time Joyce would be out of the house and wouldn't have heard shit. Meanwhile, Giles is getting beat up by the vampire and Calendar grabs a crossbow. And Buffy and Ted are in what I called a fuck-off punch-out match, round 2.
Again, how is Joyce not hearing
Yeah, a couple people duking
this?
it out again. You think you'd hear the feet stomping around at least or something. You're like, what the fuck's going on up there? Your parents would hear that shit. Yell out, quit fucking around up there, not even realizing your kid's under attack.
Don't make me come up there.
So Calendar takes her shot and she shoots Giles in the fucking kidneys or something, and in the most metal move ever, he pulls the bolt out and stakes the vampire. Pretty metal, Giles.
Giles is a badass.
So Ted is choking Buffy to death, and she stabs him with, I think it was a nail file or something, and she slashes open. Yeah. And in my notes, I'm like, a robot arm? Said in the
penny drop.
Said in the tone of a talking cat. I wasn't on my bingo card. I'm like, Ted's a Terminator? He kicks Buffy in the face and leaves the bedroom to look for Joyce. It'd be funny if she was out again, doing missionary work overseas or whatever. Xander, Willow, and Cordelia break into Ted's place. It says Eddie's Body Shop in the wall, and I'm like, there's my guess. There's probably a room full of fucking Ted bots somewhere in here.
Oh, I didn't even realize it was called the Body Shop. I thought
that was a little Easter egg or something. So the place looks more like where you would work and not where you live, and Cordelia criticizes the rug, which of course is hiding the secret door. Back at Buffy's house, Joyce is shocked to see Ted there. He's sort of lurking in the shadows. Imagine turning around and there's John Ritter lurking in their hallway shadows.
And your soul just leaves your body. If she wasn't getting high before, she is now.
She'd be like, whoa, this shit's kicking in. So he concocts a story about how he was mistaken for dead and he was unconscious and some intern found him. So it's a miracle. And he just shows up. Then he does some creepy shit like he's, oh, don't worry, Daddy's here. And I was like, bleh.
Nope. I have that note too, and I just went, nope.
Over at Ted's place, the gang finds a preserved pad from the later 50s down there, and I'm not ashamed to admit I fucking love the decor.
Yeah. This is where they filmed Three's a Crowd.
Xander looks in a closet, and then he immediately shuts, and he's like, okay, we're leaving, and he hurries everybody out, and they're like, oh, what is it? And he says it's his first 4 wives in the closet. And like, I don't know if he's joking or not, but I think he was not, in fact, joking. He got them out of there.
That's where his wives died.
Oh boy.
And that's where he put them when they were done.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't show us that part, at least. We're hitting us heavy enough in this episode.
Yeah.
So at home, Ted's laying it on thick. He's, oh, I'll make you so happy, Joyce. And then he gets all testy when she mentions Buffy. And then he starts glitching out a bit. And then one of the things he says is he doesn't take orders from women. I'm like, yeah, you're from the 50s, all right.
And Joyce hasn't been drugged by him in a while, so she's starting to show her independence, which isn't going well.
At the park, Giles says, I'm fine. Tweed's better than Kevlar. But yeah, he's a little injured. But Jenny seems to be kind of cool with him again, and all it took was shooting the spleen out with a crossbow. So, I guess...
Well, he didn't get knocked out this time, so progress?
Whatever works. So Ted's getting weirder and weirder. He thinks Joyce is his old wife, and he's trying to make off with her and knocks her out when she resists. And
they're your size. They're always your size.
It just gets creepier by the moment. Ted hears something, looks for Buffy, and then she gives him one of these.
Dong.
Fucking frying pan to the head uppercut. It was amazing. Absolutely loved it. So yeah, Ted's he's a Terminator, but the makeup effect's pretty good. And she gives him another
Dong.
And Ted just fizzles right out.
This is where the season's budget went, because this is the season's Moloch. The graphics are just so good.
Yeah, it was very, very well done.
Yeah. But I don't know how he said Parcheesi, considering he didn't have lips for that. At that point, he's like, I say a heart.
You really can't say Parcheesi without your lips.
And I actually, because I'm that nerd, I went and looked and I was like, Parcheesi? Why would he say Parcheesi? That's such a weird game. But Parcheesi was popular from 1938 to 1945. If he was an adult in 1957, then this reference is valid because he probably played it as a kid, which fits the timeline, and I love the attentions to detail.
It's mentioned in pop culture all the time. Parcheesi is just like classic fucking party game or whatever, which nobody's played in 50 years.
Also, how long was Joyce knocked out for Buffy to drag Ted from that house?
You're unconscious for more than a minute or so, you're in trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
Next day at the house, again in the daytime, Buffy and Joyce are on the porch talking. Joyce is still rattled, but Buffy is like, oh, don't worry. He's not coming back. He's on the scrap heap.
The scrap heap of life.
Back at the school, the gang does some debrief exposition about how the real Ted died some time ago and made a replacement that ended up being an insane stalker bot. Apparently, Willow kept some Ted parts. I'm like, that shit's coming back to haunt us for sure.
Think of the technology options, though.
She's either going to become a breakthrough, technological genius, or she's going to create another fucking Ted bot Terminator. That's all we need. go to the library or try to, but Giles and Jenny are making out, and then the episode ends.
And they're truly she's like, we're just going to pick up right where we left off. And they immediately pick up with walking in on two adult figures kissing in front of them again. And it's pretty much the same crowd. The only one that they were missing was Cordelia from the first time around.
Buffy's so over it. She's like, fuck's sakes.
Also, this is very unprofessional to do at a workplace. Like, you have an office.
Hey, really? Dude. There's like, 10 miles of book stacks back there. Go get lost in geography or something.
Yeah, do as the kids do. Go get lost in the demon section.
Must be kids already back there.
Ew.
So while aspects of this episode were certainly tough to watch, that was a fun episode with the weird villain that I didn't expect. I didn't figure him out till they revealed it. I really didn't have any guesses when he showed back up. I thought it was just going to be some weird, character developing that thing for Buffy where she accidentally killed somebody in the line of duty, but I was like, there's got to be a twist, and thankfully there was. But I didn't see it coming until his robot parts came out.
It's probably because he hasn't aged super well in the fact that he is somehow more relevant now. He's more in date now than he was in the 90s. Like, we were so far away from that concept in the 90s in comparison to what we were projecting outwards. In a lot of ways, I know that there were still a lot of gender stereotypes, but his 1950s was like the butt of a joke. And now it's like the goal of half of the states. So it's just really, it hits different this time around than it did for me in previous watches. And like I said to you before, I might be the John Ritter of it all, but I love this episode. This was one of the first ones that I really watched. And this episode, as a fun fact, has a 7.4 out of 10 on IMDb. It rates higher than such classics as Reptile Boy and Some Assembly Required. However, with that being said, a couple of factoids about upcoming episodes is the next one rates a 6.6.
Well, I mean, I will say John Ritter made a terrifyingly good villain, and it's probably scarier, not because of all the robot stuff, but just the stuff that was grounded in reality, like having a sudden abusive step-parent or something like that. That was the real scary stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, it's like until you realize he's a robot, you have no idea that he's anything else but a regular guy, because those people do exist, and that is the true. That's why this episode and like the episodes that are about things that could exist in our universe are scarier than the supernatural stuff, because we're like, oh, that one hits a little too close to home.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thankfully, I had a wonderful stepdad who was nothing like this, and he definitely wasn't a robot. So shout out to my stepdad.
But, Ted got a pan in the head, so justice was served in the end. I expect one of my predictions for the remainder of the season, because this is the 11th episode, is I expect we won't see Joyce again for the rest of the season, as she'll be repainting the ceiling in the Sistine Chapel or something. Like I said earlier, Xander was okay in this episode. He went to bat for Buffy when she was racked with guilt. He was like, you have to trust yourself. I know you would never, just hurt somebody without cause. He sort of went to bat for her there. And he wasn't a real pain in the ass. He was actually fairly helpful. He's part of the team. He wasn't dragging it down with bad jokes.
He was drugged.
True. A little ecstasy and he's good to go.
This is why Willow knows so much about this drug. She's like, oh, I use it on you and you annoy me. No, this season is like, we had a little bit of a tone change with the What's My Line Part 1 and 2, and then it kind of hits this lull. Like, you can definitely see how the season is segmented, but after the next episode, the entire rest of the season rates average 8.4. So it really kicks into gear after this.
Wow. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. But first we got to get through the next one.
Oh, I don't like that face you're making, but okay. I mean, is Robin Williams or someone nice going to show? Is like Weird Al or fucking Bob Ross going to show up as a bad guy? Because I can't.